Aliens didn't know who'd come. Then the Deathworlders appeared in the quiet reaches of the Milky Way, far from the bustling trade routes and starports. There lay a sector that few civilizations paid attention to. It was a peaceful place, with planets that orbited their suns in gentle harmony and stars that twinkled like distant lanterns. The alien species that lived there, the Valorians, considered themselves the masters of order and knowledge. Their cities floated above planets like glassy crowns, shimmering with the light of 1,000 solar panels and energy grids. They prided themselves on understanding the universe, on knowing what was safe and what was dangerous. Yet even the Valorians were not prepared for what was coming. It started with a signal, a strange, irregular pulse from the edge of an uncharted system. Their sensors, which could detect faint whispers from stars millions of light years away, picked it up. The signal was primitive but persistent, a rhythm that did not match any known technology or natural phenomenon. Analysts debated its meaning in council chambers that gleamed with the reflected light of the nearby sun. Some said it was nothing, a minor anomaly. Others feared it might be a probe from a civilization that was unknown, possibly hostile. The lead scientist, Thalira, was intrigued. She had studied countless signals, patterns, and anomalies in her long life, but this one was different. It carried a sense of purpose, a deliberate intelligence behind it. She tapped at her console, eyes scanning the waveforms and frequencies, her mind racing with questions. "Whatever it is," she said to the council, "it is coming from a planet that is said to be uninhabitable. If life exists there, it must be extraordinary," the council murmured. Uninhabitable planets were nothing new to them. They had catalogued hundreds, sending drones and probes to map their surface. Yet the pulses were too regular, too controlled to be random. It was a message, though the Valorians could not yet decipher it. Weeks passed. The signal grew stronger. Then, without warning, a fleet appeared near the system. Massive ships rose from the planet's harsh surface, cutting through the clouds of dust and gas like knives. The Valorians watched in astonishment. These ships were unlike anything in their records. They were functional, rugged, and strange, with designs that seemed chaotic but perfectly suited to the unknown dangers of their home world. The aliens panicked. Their historians had never recorded a species surviving on that planet's surface. It was a death world, a place of extreme temperatures, violent storms, and toxic atmospheres. No known species could live there long enough to develop technology, let alone build starships. And yet here they were, humans, the so-called Deathworlders. On the bridge of the largest Valorian command vessel, Admiral Kilthan watched the approaching ships with a mixture of fear and fascination. He had commanded fleets for decades, had faced asteroid storms and alien raiders, but this was something new. "What are they?" he asked, his voice betraying a rare tremor of uncertainty. Thalira leaned forward, her antennae twitching with excitement. "They are called humans," she said softly. "I have read about them in scattered reports from other systems. They survive worlds that should kill them. They adapt to the impossible, and now they are here." The Admiral shook his head. "This is impossible. No species could survive there. We should prepare our defenses." Thalira's eyes narrowed. "And if we do, we might start a war with a species we do not understand. Perhaps it is better to observe first." Meanwhile, on the surface of the Death World, humans were preparing for the jump to space. Commander Elias stood on the edge of a jagged cliff, the twin suns casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. The air was thin and bitter, carrying particles that could scratch the lungs of most beings. Yet he breathed easily, as if the planet had trained him for every possible danger. Around him, humans moved with confidence, checking their ships, calibrating energy shields, and running simulations in their portable devices. Every movement was precise, efficient, and calm. They were not soldiers by training alone. They were survivors, molded by the planet's harshest conditions. Humans had learned to expect the worst, to turn danger into advantage. And now they were leaving their home for the first time in centuries, entering the vast, unknown void of space. Their ships lifted off in a smooth rhythm, engines cutting through the atmosphere with a roar that echoed across the canyons. They formed a fleet, not vast in number but formidable in presence. As they rose, the humans communicated in quiet tones, issuing orders and checks without panic. Every system functioned perfectly, every team member aware of their role. Back in the Valorian observation room, the council watched in stunned silence. The humans moved with a purpose, a confidence that unsettled even the most rational minds. "They are organized," said a younger council member, unable to hide his awe. "And yet their design is so alien. They do not look like anything we know." The humans did not attack. They did not even communicate directly at first. They simply approached, as though the universe had opened a door and they were walking through it. The Valorians' communication channels picked up a faint signal, just enough to identify it as intelligent, but no words could yet be understood. Admiral Kilthen sent a small scout ship to meet them, a standard procedure for first contact. The scout approached the human fleet, sensors active, shields raised. As the two vessels neared each other, a single transmission came through, surprisingly simple and confident. "We wish to talk." The Valorians were silent. Such calm, such assurance was rare in first contact scenarios. Usually, species approaching the unknown were hesitant, scared, or aggressive. But these humans seemed neither. They simply were, and their presence demanded attention. Thalira spoke, her voice a mixture of wonder and excitement. "Prepare the welcoming protocols. They are here, and they are not what we expected." In the next hours, humans and Valorians moved closer. Sensors scanned, shields aligned, and diplomatic channels were tentatively opened. The humans' ships were rugged but technologically advanced in ways that seemed intuitive, not learned from alien blueprints. It was as if they had created solutions for problems no one else had even considered. Every device, every tool, every piece of machinery spoke of survival, adaptability, and resilience. Admiral Kilthen's initial fear began to mix with curiosity. Here was a species that defied the rules. Here was a species that thrived where none should survive. The implications were immense. Humans were not just another species in the galaxy. They were a reminder that life could be stronger, cleverer, and more unpredictable than any theoretical model. The first human ambassador, a woman named Commander Leora, stepped forward in her small ship's communication array. Her voice was clear, calm, and firm. "We do not wish to fight, we wish to understand, we wish to learn, and perhaps in turn you may learn from us." The Valorians exchanged uncertain glances. No species had ever approached them with such directness. There was pride, yes, but also a quiet humility that was unusual in beings of their intelligence. It was unsettling, in a way that made them think harder, question more, and prepare for possibilities they had never imagined. As the sun set over the alien sector, painting the gas clouds with colors no human eye had named, the first meeting began. It was not a meeting of armies, but a meeting of minds. Humans had come from a world that demanded strength, courage, and ingenuity, and now, in the quiet reaches of the Milky Way, they would show that these qualities were more powerful than any technology or strategy the Valorians had ever known. And so, the stage was set. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the aliens, for the first time in centuries, realized that the universe might be far more unpredictable than their records suggested. The stars seemed to shine a little differently that night, as if acknowledging the arrival of a species that would challenge everything the galaxy believed about survival, strength, and the meaning of life itself. Little did anyone know, the signal that had brought the humans here was only the beginning. The Deathworlders did not just survive, they thrived where others could not. And as they prepared to speak, to explore, and to understand, the Valorians could only watch and wonder. What would these humans do next? The Valorian Council watched from their floating chambers as the human fleet settled into orbit around the system's largest planet. The massive ships, rugged and irregular in design, contrasted sharply with the sleek, polished lines of Valorian vessels. Every moment that passed, the Valorians' curiosity deepened, mixed with a quiet unease. Who were these beings, capable of surviving worlds that should have destroyed them? On the human flagship, Commander Elias stood on the observation deck, looking at the swirling gases of the alien planet below. The humans had quickly adapted to space travel, their ships built to endure extremes that no other species could handle. Systems hummed with quiet efficiency, controlled by teams who understood both the precision of technology and the unpredictability of danger. "Sensors indicate minor fluctuations in the Valorian shields," said Lieutenant Mara, her voice calm as she adjusted her console. "They are watching us carefully." Elias nodded. "Let them watch. We do not need to rush. First contact is about understanding, not confrontation." Despite their composure, humans were prepared for challenges. The Valorians, for all their intelligence, had weaknesses. They relied heavily on technology and predictability, and humans had learned that adaptability often outweighed raw power. Elias and his crew had trained for years to survive environments hostile to most life forms. They knew that patience, observation, and courage could turn uncertainty into opportunity. A Valorian scout vessel approached the human flagship, its shimmering surface reflecting light in patterns that made the humans pause for a moment. The aliens' eyes, large and multifaceted, scanned the human ship, studying every movement. When the ship stopped at a cautious distance, Elias spoke into the communication channel. "We are here to learn and to share knowledge," he said clearly. "We do not wish to fight." The alien captain hesitated as if weighing every word. Then, with a slight nod, it opened a docking protocol. The humans were invited aboard one of the Valorian stations, a floating city of light and glass above a blue and green planet. As the humans entered, they quickly adapted to the alien environment. Valorian gravity fields were adjustable, shifting subtly from room to room. Humans moved with grace, testing their balance, adjusting to new pressures, and even helping Valorian engineers with minor corrections to their systems. The aliens observed this silently, astonished at the humans' natural ability to handle what their own species considered challenging. Inside the station, Thalira led a group of human scientists and engineers to inspect the alien research labs. The Valorians prided themselves on their advanced experiments, and they were careful with access. Yet humans worked quickly, their hands steady and their minds alert. They discovered inefficiencies in energy conduits and suggested minor changes. When implemented, these changes increased output and stabilized delicate equipment that had frequently faltered under Valorian oversight. "Remarkable," Thalira whispered to herself. "No species has ever shown such practical skill on our technology without formal instruction." Not all was calm. A small incident occurred when an experimental energy core fluctuated unexpectedly, threatening the lab with overload. Valorian scientists froze, unsure how to react, but the humans were ready. Without panic, they assessed the situation, rerouted power, and stabilized the core using methods that were unconventional but effective. When the immediate danger passed, the Valorians looked at them in disbelief. "How do they do this?" a young Valorian asked, shaking their antennae. "They have no training on our machines, and yet they saved the lab." Thalira smiled, though she could not hide her own astonishment. "They think differently. Where we see complexity, they see solutions. Where we expect failure, they expect adaptation." Meanwhile, in the observation rooms above the station, Admiral Kilthen watched the humans' every move. He had commanded fleets and faced countless threats, but he had never seen beings who combined caution, courage, and resourcefulness in such a natural way. Every action the humans took reinforced what he already feared. These were not ordinary visitors. They were survivors, and their survival skills extended far beyond the limits of any alien species. The next challenge came unexpectedly. A minor meteor storm appeared near the system, invisible on most long-range sensors but detectable to the Valorian observation network. The humans noticed it first, reading subtle fluctuations in energy fields. Instead of reacting with fear, they began devising a plan. Teams split into small groups, each taking a portion of the fleet to divert or shield potential impact zones. The Valorians watched silently as humans coordinated, adapting their approach in real time to the unpredictable behavior of the meteors. One ship, smaller and faster, maneuvered into position to intercept a particularly dangerous cluster. The human pilot, Kiera, adjusted her trajectory continuously, using intuition and experience rather than algorithms. A meteor grazed the hull, sending sparks along the exterior, yet the ship stayed on course, diverting the others safely. When the storm passed, no Valorian vessel had suffered damage, thanks entirely to the humans' quick thinking and adaptability. The council was stunned. "They are extraordinary," Thalira admitted. "Their methods are unorthodox but effective. They think in ways our systems cannot predict." Elias, unaware of the council's amazement, prepared a report for his crew. "Observation is key," he said. "We must understand them as they understand us. Patience, careful study, and quiet action are our allies." But humans were not just observers. They were communicators. Commander Leora reached out to Valorian scientists directly, sharing ideas in ways that were neither intrusive nor demanding. She suggested alternative energy routing, safer laboratory protocols, and strategies for managing planetary resources. Each suggestion was subtle, but when implemented, the Valorian systems performed better than ever. For the first time, the Valorians felt a mixture of respect and humility. No species in their history had arrived so unannounced and yet contributed so meaningfully without any prior agreement. The humans were not aggressive conquerors, nor were they timid explorers. They were equalizers, bringing balance through ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. The test was far from over. A natural anomaly, a massive radiation pulse from a nearby dying star, began to affect the Valorian sensors and energy fields. The pulse threatened delicate instruments and could destabilize entire laboratories. Panic spread among some Valorian researchers. Humans, however, reacted with calm focus. Teams split into smaller units, each addressing a portion of the problem. They used portable shielding devices, rerouted energy flows, and stabilized the environment with speed and precision that amazed the Valorians. "I have never seen beings react with such composure under pressure," Thalira admitted. "They do not fear the unknown, they face it." Even Admiral Kilthan, who had been skeptical from the start, found himself impressed. The humans had proven that they were more than just survivors. They were problem solvers, innovators, and allies who could face situations that no Valorian had considered survivable. As the radiation pulse subsided, the Valorian Council convened to discuss the implications. The humans had demonstrated not only their strength, but also their ability to teach, to inspire, and to stabilize a situation that threatened an entire sector of research. It was clear that their presence was more than a curiosity. It was a potential turning point for the Valorians' understanding of life, resilience, and adaptation. Elias gathered his crew to discuss the next steps. "Observation alone is not enough," he said. "We must continue to understand them, to work with them, and to prepare for the unknown. This system is just the beginning." The humans had arrived quietly, with no weapons drawn, no aggressive maneuvers, and no desire for conflict. Yet their mere presence had shifted the balance of perception. The Valorians now saw that strength was not measured in energy output or technological sophistication alone. Adaptability, courage, and quick thinking could turn impossible situations into manageable ones. As night fell over the alien system, the Valorian skies lit up with stars that seemed to shine more brightly. The humans, aboard their ships, observed quietly, recording data and preparing for the challenges ahead. They were ready to learn, ready to teach, and ready to show that even in a universe filled with uncertainty, the Deathworlders could thrive. And so the first tests were complete. Humans had demonstrated their resilience, their intelligence, and their calm under pressure. The Valorians had seen it all, and slowly, quietly, they began to understand that these beings from a harsh, distant world were more than just survivors. They were a force to be respected, and perhaps even admired. In the silence of the observation deck, Commander Leora looked at the stars. "They are ready," she said softly. "We must see what comes next." The Valorians, for their part, could only watch and wait, their understanding of life and survival forever altered by the arrival of the Deathworlders. The universe, it seemed, had brought them a lesson in courage, ingenuity, and the indomitable human spirit. The calm of the Valorian system was shattered not by weapons, but by the unpredictable forces of nature. Far from the orderly planets and floating cities, a cosmic anomaly moved through space. A massive radiation storm, swirling with colors no Valorian eye had seen before. It was approaching the alien homeworlds with silent fury, and even the most advanced Valorian sensors could not predict its path fully. Panic rippled through the council chambers, and the Valorian fleet scrambled to prepare defenses. Commander Elias and his human team monitored the approaching storm from orbit. The sensors were different from anything humans had used before, but their principles were familiar. Humans had survived Deathworlds with violent storms, corrosive atmospheres, and unpredictable quakes. To them, this storm was not a terror, it was a challenge. "The storm is stronger than their shields can handle," Lieutenant Mara said, her fingers moving across the controls as she calculated potential outcomes. "It will hit the planet within hours." Elias nodded, his expression calm. "Then we act. We work with them and we show them what we can do." In the Valorian Council chamber, Thalira tried to propose standard safety measures. We can reinforce shields, evacuate key systems, and adjust energy flows. It will be enough to reduce damage. But Elias shook his head when they spoke through the translation channel. We have a better plan, one that will protect your people and your infrastructure more effectively, but it requires trust, coordination, and the courage to act where others hesitate. The Valorians hesitated. They had always relied on rules, precise calculations, and predictable outcomes. Trusting a species from a harsh, unknown world to intervene in a crisis of this scale was difficult. Yet the humans' confidence was undeniable, and desperation forced the Council to agree. Human teams divided into small units, each assigned a sector of the system that was most vulnerable to the storm. Ships with specialized shielding technology moved into positions that Valorian fleets had considered impossible to reach. Humans assessed trajectories, adjusted shields, and recalibrated energy conduits in ways that seemed intuitive rather than procedural. It was a method unfamiliar to the Valorians, yet it worked with precision. Their logic is different, Thalira whispered to a colleague, observing a human squad rerouting energy from a destabilized shield. They see the system not as equations but as possibilities. One of the storm's massive bursts threatened a cluster of research stations orbiting a small planet. Valorian fleets attempted to redirect energy but struggled under the storm's chaotic fluctuations. Then, a human ship piloted by Kiera moved into position, adjusting trajectory with sharp intuition. The storm grazed the ship, sparks flying along its hull, yet Kiera's maneuver protected the stations entirely. No Valorian vessel suffered damage in that sector. Admiral Kilthan's initial doubt turned into cautious respect. The humans were not just observers, they were strategists, capable of improvising under conditions that would have disabled the most sophisticated Valorian systems. Every action was calm, calculated, and executed with a sense of confidence that unsettled the aliens. On the ground, Valorian engineers and scientists watched in astonishment as human crews demonstrated the same principle on a smaller scale. Portable devices designed for emergency field operations were deployed to stabilize planetary energy nodes. Humans moved in coordination, each action anticipating the next, countering the storm's chaotic behavior. What seemed impossible to the Valorians became routine under human management. They are fearless, one young scientist muttered. They walk into danger without hesitation, and they find solutions where we see only chaos. The storm raged on, more powerful than anyone anticipated. Yet the humans' calm continued, each member of the team adjusting, analyzing, and acting without panic. Commander Leora moved from station to station, coordinating units, checking the status of critical systems, and communicating efficiently. Her voice, calm but authoritative, guided operations with a clarity that Valorian commanders could not match. Despite their fear, the Valorians began assisting in small ways, inspired by human initiative. Engineers recalculated energy flows, soldiers reinforced vulnerable structures, and analysts adjusted communications to allow for faster response times. The humans were not leaders in a commanding sense. They encouraged cooperation, demonstrating what could be done when intellect, courage, and adaptability worked together. As the storm's edge reached the homeworld, human teams on the planet itself stepped into hazardous zones. The environment was harsh. High winds, radiation surges, and unstable terrain threatened every step. Yet the humans moved with confidence, using protective suits, field devices, and sheer resilience to navigate dangers. They repaired energy lines, stabilized atmospheric shields, and guided Valorian equipment to optimal positions. Thalira watched from a protected observation point, her antennae twitching. I have never seen a species so naturally equipped to deal with extremes. They are not just surviving, they are excelling where our best preparations fail. Admiral Kilthan nodded, slowly acknowledging what he had feared. Humans were more than allies, they were a force of nature. We must learn from them, he said, almost to himself. We cannot ignore their methods. The storm began to lose intensity, partially diverted and dissipated by the combined efforts of humans and Valorians. Systems stabilized, research stations remained intact, and the homeworld was spared major damage. It was a victory, not won by technology alone, but by ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. Afterward, the Valorian Council convened to discuss what had happened. No species in their history had faced such a cosmic event and managed it with such precision and calm. The humans had acted decisively, saving lives and infrastructure while teaching the Valorians a new way of thinking. The Council's awe was palpable, tempered only by the realization that they had much to learn. On the human flagship, Commander Elias addressed his team. "This was more than a test," he said. "It was an opportunity to show that survival is more than strength or technology. It is courage, creativity, and teamwork. Today we have demonstrated what it means to be a Deathworlder." The crew exchanged quiet nods. Each had faced the storm, each had contributed, and each had seen the limits of what other species expected of them. They were not invincible, but they were adaptable, resilient, and capable of turning adversity into advantage. The Valorians began to approach them differently. Respect replaced fear, curiosity replaced skepticism. Scientists sought advice, engineers requested demonstrations, and commanders watched the humans' methods with intense interest. Even the youngest members of the council realized that these humans were not just visitors. They were teachers, challengers, and examples of what life could endure. In the calm after the storm, Commander Leora and Thalira walked through a quiet corridor of the Valorian station. The alien structures shimmered with a soft, calming light, yet the evidence of the storm's earlier threat was still visible. Equipment hummed steadily, stabilized by human intervention. "Your people are remarkable," Thalira said. "I do not know if I have ever seen such control under pressure. Even our most advanced systems could not have managed that without guidance." Leora smiled. "We have faced impossible worlds and survived. Your systems were challenging, but the principles are the same. Observation, patience, courage, and action, that is all it takes." The conversation ended, but the lesson lingered. Valorian minds, trained in precision and theory, now had a practical example of adaptability, showing that thinking differently could succeed where experience alone might fail. As the system settled into a new calm, humans prepared for the next challenge, knowing that the galaxy would test them again. But for the Valorians, the impression was indelible. Humans, the Deathworlders, had not only survived but excelled. They had turned chaos into order, danger into opportunity, and fear into respect. From the observation deck, Admiral Kilthan gazed at the fleet. "We underestimated them," he admitted. "They are not just survivors, they are a force we must understand and perhaps even follow." And as the stars shimmered over the system, the humans readied themselves. They were ready to continue, to face the unknown, and to prove that where others saw limits, humans saw possibilities. The Deathworlders' edge was not in technology, not in numbers, but in their spirit, the unwavering, adaptable, courageous spirit that allowed them to thrive where none else could. The Valorian homeworld, previously calm and orderly, now buzzed with anticipation. The radiation storm had passed, but its aftereffects lingered in the form of weakened energy grids and damaged observation stations. The Valorian Council convened urgently to assess the situation and plan the next steps. For the first time, they invited the humans to take an active role in these deliberations. Commander Elias, standing at the front of the council chamber, addressed the assembly. "The storm was a test of resilience, not just for your systems, but for your species. Your technology is advanced, but it must be paired with adaptability and creativity to withstand the unexpected." Valorian Council members exchanged cautious glances. Their history was one of precise calculation, of predictable outcomes. The idea that adaptability could rival their technology was difficult to accept. Yet, the evidence was undeniable. Humans had stabilized systems that even the most advanced Valorian protocols had failed to protect. Elias continued, "We propose a coordinated plan to restore and enhance your planetary systems. It will require human and Valorian teams working side by side. Each of us brings skills the other lacks. Together we can ensure this planet, and this system, is prepared for anything the universe may throw at it." A wave of quiet murmurs filled the chamber. The Valorians, trained in structure and order, were not used to collaboration on such an instinctual level. Yet they were intrigued. They had seen humans confront the impossible and emerge unscathed. It was time to follow that example. Human teams spread across the planet, moving into sectors where energy grids had been compromised. Portable shielding devices, innovative stabilization tools, and quick improvisation turned chaos into order. Where Valorian engineers had paused, Unsure how to proceed, humans acted decisively, predicting problems before they could arise. On one damaged research station, a group of Valorian scientists attempted to recalibrate the main energy conduits. Sparks flew and alarms blared. Lieutenant Mara and her team arrived, quickly analyzing the situation. With calm authority, they redirected power flows, stabilized the conduits, and prevented a catastrophic failure. The Valorian scientists watched in awe as systems hummed steadily under human guidance. "They think ahead," one young Valorian whispered. "They do not react, they anticipate." Elsewhere, human crews worked on atmospheric regulators and planetary shields. The storm had weakened protective layers, and a second minor radiation surge threatened to disrupt communications. Humans deployed adaptive shielding systems that bent the energy fields around the planet, dissipating the surge harmlessly. Valorian commanders had never seen such flexibility. Their rigid protocols could not have reacted in time. Even in areas of extreme danger, humans maintained their composure. Teams navigated hazardous terrain on the planet's surface, repairing infrastructure while exposed to high radiation and unstable landscapes. Protective suits and adaptive tools kept them safe, but it was their courage and calm judgment that truly made the difference. Where Valorians had hesitated, humans acted. From orbit, Admiral Kilthan observed the operation. He had witnessed many victories in his career, but this was different. Humans were not only surviving, they were excelling. They had turned disaster into opportunity, chaos into coordination, and fear into focused action. The implications were staggering. He realized that technology alone could not account for their success. It was their human spirit, their resilience, and their ability to act under pressure that gave them the edge. Back in the council chambers, Thalira addressed her colleagues. "We have underestimated humans for too long. They are not only adaptable, they teach us, inspire us, and show us new ways to approach problems. Their methods are unorthodox, yet effective. We must integrate their approach into our own systems if we wish to survive future challenges." Commander Leora and Elias coordinated closely with Valorian leaders, ensuring smooth collaboration. They emphasized observation, communication, and respect. Each team member contributed to the restoration effort, sharing insights and demonstrating techniques that combined human experience with Valorian technology. Hours passed as the operation continued. Slowly, steadily, the system stabilized. Energy grids hummed with renewed power, planetary shields glowed with reinforced strength, and research stations returned to full functionality. The human-led teams had not only repaired damage, they had enhanced systems, making them more resilient than before. Valorian citizens, who had initially watched the humans with suspicion, began to see them differently. Children pointed excitedly at human crews performing daring tasks. Scholars recorded observations of human techniques. Leaders acknowledged that survival depended not only on technology, but also on courage, ingenuity, and quick decision-making. As the last sectors were secured, Commander Elias addressed the humans. "Well done. We have shown them that where others see danger, we see opportunity. Where others see limits, we see possibilities. This is the essence of being a Deathworlder." The crew responded with quiet satisfaction, aware that they had accomplished something extraordinary. They had not only survived a storm that could have destroyed an entire system, but had also helped an alien civilization learn the value of adaptability and courage. The Valorian Council reconvened to formally recognize the humans' contribution. Thalira spoke, her antennae quivering with emotion. "Humans, your actions have saved our world. Your courage, insight, and resilience have taught us lessons that no calculation or technology could provide. We are grateful and honored to have witnessed your abilities." Elias stepped forward, humbly acknowledging the praise. "We do not seek recognition. We are survivors, and we act to preserve life and opportunity wherever we find it. Your willingness to trust and cooperate allowed us to succeed. Together, we have shown what can be accomplished when different strengths unite." Even Admiral Kilthan, who had been skeptical from the start, offered his respect. "You have earned a place not only in our records, but in our understanding of what life can achieve." The Deathworlders' spirit is something we will remember and study for generations. In the quiet after the storm, humans and Valorians worked side by side, exchanging ideas, techniques, and strategies. The collaboration had not only saved lives, but also built bonds of trust and respect. It was clear that humans brought more than survival skills. They brought a new perspective on how to confront challenges, inspire courage, and adapt to the unexpected. On the human flagship, Commander Leora gazed out at the system. The stars seemed brighter not because of the storm, but because of the understanding that had been reached. Humans had triumphed, not through sheer force, but through intelligence, courage, and adaptability. They had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the Deathworlders could succeed. The Valorians, too, were changed. Their perception of life, survival, and strength had shifted. They understood that technology alone was not enough. Courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to act in the face of danger were equally vital. Humans had taught them a new way to see the universe. As night fell over the alien homeworld, the fleets of both species moved in harmony. The humans had demonstrated their edge, and the Valorians had learned a valuable lesson. Together, they had turned a potential disaster into a triumph. Commander Elias addressed the assembled human crew. "We have done well, but this is only the beginning. The universe is full of challenges, and each one will test us in new ways. Remember what we have accomplished here: patience, courage, adaptability, and cooperation. These are our greatest strengths." The crew nodded, understanding that their journey was far from over. The Deathworlders had shown the galaxy that survival was not about strength alone. It was about spirit, intellect, and resilience. And as they prepared for the next adventure, they carried with them the knowledge that humans could turn any challenge into an opportunity, inspiring even the most advanced civilizations along the way. In the quiet observation decks of the Valorian cities, scientists, engineers, and leaders reflected on what they had witnessed. Humans had arrived unexpectedly, yet they had changed everything. They had shown that life could thrive where others believed it impossible, that courage could equal technology, and that adaptability could overcome even the most unpredictable dangers. The message was clear. The Deathworlders had triumphed, and their presence in the galaxy would not be forgotten. They had set a new standard for what it meant to survive, to inspire, and to excel in a universe that had once seemed indifferent. And for the humans themselves, it was a quiet reminder of who they were: resilient, adaptable, and unstoppable when faced with the unknown.